Independence. In commemoration of Nigeria's 64th independence, we turn our attention to Nigeria's economic progress under President Tinubu, examining claims about foreign direct investment, policy achievements, and challenges. While $30 billion was pledged in 2023, actual FDI inflows were much lower, raising concerns about the country's investment climate. We'll also discuss key reforms like the 2024 Withholding Tax Law and the floating of the Naira, alongside issues such as foreign currency loans and debt repayment strategies. These are the things we'll be looking at today. And joining me for this, I have Dr Samson Simon, Chief Economist, ARKK Economics Data Limited. Thank you, Dr. Simon, for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigerians.
Good morning to you. Well, our president said yesterday that the country has attracted foreign direct investments worth more than $30 billion since 2023 due to his economic policies. Now, this has been fact-checked, and what we see is that this was the amount pledged, while the real inflow between Q2 2023, when Tinubu's administration began, and Q1 2024 is $448.95 million. Is this a far cry from what was promised, saying it was supposed to be redeemed within 5 to 8 years? I mean, if you look at the fact that that was supposed to be done between 5 to 8 years, and we have this amount in just about some months, what do you make of that?
Well, many of us were surprised when the president mentioned this in his speech yesterday. These are basically commitments that some investors have made. Agreements have been signed and some pledges have been made. Mind you, some of this cannot be fully independently verified by other sources outside the government, apart from what the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment said. I don't think there's any authoritative sources that can prove that the amount is up to that. And mind you, like you rightly mentioned, this are supposed to be redeemed over the course of 5 to 8 years from now. So I think we're jumping the gun by talking as if these are investments that have actually come in. Meanwhile, they are just promises, they are just pledges. So I think we are counting our chickens before they are hatched. The right foreign direct investment that has actually come in over the course of time since President Tinubu came on board is less than $500 million. Our foreign direct investment has been underperforming. The larger chunk of our capital importation has been foreign portfolio investments, and to some extent, other investments like the borrowings that we do across borders. So we have a long way to go. What is largely coming is hot money, which is not the best. What we need is to attract foreign direct investment, which shows more confidence in the Nigerian economy. So I think it's a good thing that we have commitments. At least we have made progress, we have made efforts, and we're expecting some things to come in. But I don't think we should count them as things that have already come into the Nigerian economy yet.
Right.
And they may not even materialize. That possibility is there. So we should not rule it out entirely.
But I like what you said about how that a lot of all of this really is hot money. When we talk about, capital inflows, FPI, and other investments taking the larger chunk. But again, let's get back to FDI. Do you fear that this may not be achieved? I mean, that particular amount may not be achieved, bearing in mind that even Coca-Cola's renewed $1 billion investment pledge is actually based on the presence of a predictable and enabling environment. What's your thoughts on this?
Of course, this, like you mentioned, Coca-Cola made a promise too some time ago, and up to now it has not materialized. And in 2024, they are reiterating the same promise. Because some of these pledges, some of these commitments are contingent upon certain things being done. And to give credit to the president, he has done some things, like he has cleared the backlog of the FX forwards that we had. They have largely been doing the right thing. They have floated the Naira, which investors would appreciate. They have removed subsidy. These are some of the things that the investors want to see. But there are still a lot that we need to do. We need to make the business environment friendlier. We need to encourage not only to attract foreign investments, but even investments domestically. We have to return those investments. And when businesses are leaving Nigeria, that is not a vote of confidence on us. So a lot of things need to be done for these investments to eventually materialize. And we have to face the reality. These are promises, these are pledges, and the possibility of them not materializing is always there. So it's wrong for us to jump to conclusion as if these are investments that are definitely or unfailingly coming in.
All right, I like what you said, and I think for now we probably need to begin to look at some of the conditions or factors that will help us achieve these promises. Now, we hear that the 2024 Withholding Tax Law has been gazetted. Now, that sort of paves the way for the implementation of this. Now, will this be a game changer for businesses in the country? Or you might also want to add to that the economic stabilization bill. What impact would all of this have in ensuring that we have that conducive environment that investors are actually looking for?
Well, with credit to the Tinubu administration, they have gone out of their way to introduce all the reforms, all the market reforms, or at least a larger chunk of the reforms that people have been clamoring for, whether multilateral agencies like the IMF or the World Bank, or even bilateral bodies like other countries have been nudging us on to incorporate all these reforms. They have largely been trying to embark on these reforms. And one of these is the Economic Stabilization Bill. And also, if you look at it, it's basically trying to attract investment. It's trying to make Nigeria a destination of choice for investments. And when we attract investments, we know it has a multiplier effect. Nigerians are going to benefit. When you talk about investments coming in, it will create employment. We know what Nigeria was before the coming of telcos like MTN, the MTNs of this world, and the Glo of this world, and the jobs that they have created, the development that they have brought to the Nigerian economy. So in the same manner, if we attract these investments, they will go a long way. And they're trying to build the economy. They're trying to increase revenue that's generated for the government in order for them to have resources to tackle problems, whether insecurity or healthcare challenges, to fix it, and even for agriculture. So all these reforms are necessary for these things. And by the way, like we always mention, these reforms may be good on paper, but the implementation is as important as crafting a robust policy. On paper, it looks excellent, and it's supposed to help the Nigerian economy and ultimately the Nigerian people. But where the problem lies is about the implementation. We have to make sure that these reforms actually give the desired results that we embark on them in the first place.
Well, looking at all of this, knowing that we have a hawkish monetary policy environment, how will this all play out?
Well, the hawkish monetary policy stance of the Central Bank of Nigeria is normal in a situation like ours, where inflation is at 32.15%. We know the ideal inflation, as we considered in Nigeria, is between 6 to 9%. Globally, it's even 2%. So ideally, we should even be doing 2%. But we realized that maybe that 2% might be impossible for us. We opted for 6 to 9%. But even that target of 6 to 9%, we're doing way more than that, at more than 32.15% headline inflation. Among the food inflation is even far worse. So the hawkish stance is understandable. But has this hawkish stance really benefited the Nigerian people? Our money supply is at all-time high. So there's a disconnect somewhere. When you're hiking interest rates, the expectation is that money supply will come down. And even when money supply comes down, that will also reduce prices, and cost of living will also go down. Unfortunately, we are not seeing that. Even the easing of inflation in the last 2 months is largely because of harvest. It's because of the food component of the headline inflation. That's to tell you is that cannot be attributed to the efforts of the central bank. So while it's okay for us to embark on this working stance, we have to make sure that they're giving us the desired results. And when they're not giving us the desired results, like what we're seeing now, we need to go back to the drawing board and find out what actually is the problem and try to fix the problem from source.
Well, for you, what do you think the problem really is? If we have taken, this posture for a long time now, and we haven't necessarily seen, considerable change?
Well, the monetary authorities have been embarking on a lot of policies, all in the bids, because their main mandate, the result trial for the existence of the monetary authorities, is to ensure price stability. And why do you ensure price stability? For inclusive growth and sustainable development. That That's the mandate of the central bank. That's the mission of the Central Bank of Nigeria. So they have been trying their best, and on paper, they have embarked on orthodox policies, and we're expected to see results. But if you look at it, the fiscal authorities sadly have not met the monetary authorities halfway. They need to play their own part. And if you look at our inflation, I know we attribute inflation generally to money supply and monetary economics, but the fiscal authorities have to play their own part, because our inflation is due to structural issues, structural rigidities. We're talking about food being the major problem, and it's not the responsibility of the central bank to ensure food supply. It's not their responsibility to fix agriculture. That's the responsibility of the fiscal authorities. And before you can even fix Nigerian agriculture, you need to work on insecurity. I know recently the president, even in his speech, he mentioned that, but we have not done anything that actually moves the needle. There's a need for us to fix insecurity in a way that it moves the needle, that farmers can comfortably go to their farms. And when we have enough supply of food, then the food inflation component will come down, which has largely been the major problem. And even for the core inflation, if there are other sources, the fiscal authorities and the monetary authorities need to act in consonance. That means when you are embarking on hawkish stance as a central bank, then the fiscal authorities also need to embark on policy that is not expansionary. Sadly, we have been embarking on expansionary fiscal policy. So that means they are working at cross purposes. And when you're working at cross purposes, the tendency of having results will largely be slim. So that is what has been happening.
All right, while you spoke earlier, you talked about the fiscal authority not meeting the monetary authority halfway. And my question to you would be, don't you think this is also as a result of bureaucracy? Because we've heard a lot of these pronouncements, whether it's ASAP, which of course we're now hearing about, the Economic Stabilization Bill, or it is even the withholding tax regime, which of course has now been gazetted, or a lot of things that even the fiscal reform and Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform Committee has also talked about or recommended earlier. It's taken a lot of time for these things to be implemented. Don't you think part of the challenges we're facing there is the issue of bureaucracy? Because I also know that one of the recommendations they made was for customs duty to be fixed, but even that has not been done.
Well, you have a point, and mind you, some of these policies also have a lag. For monetary policy, we know that it has a long and variable lag. So it's not like when you embark on a particular stance, immediately you see results. Sometimes it may take a while. And we are hopeful that we see results down the line. Sadly, the way the situation is, the way the cost of living is biting so hard, we don't have the time, we don't have the luxury of time, because things are beyond so harsh for the average Nigerian to cope. While the fiscal authorities, like you rightly mentioned, has embarked on some policies, that's not disputing the fact that they have also been doing their own bit. But the fact still remains that what they have done has largely not moved the needle. We're talking about food being the major problem. What exactly have we done to fix agriculture in Nigeria? I think next to nothing. We have actually been doing things, but they have not largely been effective. So we need to embark on policies or even actions that are effective in getting us results. The results, mind you, are what really matter. That's really the bottom line. So you may be active, you may be working hard from morning till night, but if what you have achieved is not in terms of outcome is almost nothing, that means you have largely not done anything. So what we need is to find where the problem is and actually go after the problem in such a way that we see results as quickly as possible.
Absolutely, results-based outcomes. Thank you for that. Now, what will you point to as the most significant economic achievement of this current administration, and how do you think these achievements have impacted the lives of ordinary Nigerians? I can almost say that I know what your answer will be going by what you've been saying so far, but I'd like you to just answer this.
Well, I may disappoint you. I think the most important achievement for this current government is increasing the foreign exchange reserves. Despite the fact that they have been taking a lot of funds from the foreign exchange reserves to defend the Naira, they have cleared the backlog, like the president rightly mentioned. Despite all these things, we have seen accretion in the foreign exchange reserves. I know people say, all right, we have also been borrowing, which is contributing, but some of these borrowings, we need them for a lot of things. So despite all these things, I think the foreign exchange reserves have actually increased, because according to record, on the 26th of May, 3 days before President Tinubu came to power, our foreign exchange reserves were in the region of $35 billion. We're talking about 38 billion now. So they have increased it, and it shows that investors are having confidence in the Nigerian economy. But in terms of the impact, how the increase in foreign exchange reserves have impacted the average Nigerian, I think that largely remains to be seen. We need to get effective ways, because when you have when your foreign exchange reserves are increasing, they're ballooning, the expectation is that currency will increase in value. Well, I know that the Naira in the last few weeks or months has largely remained stable, but it's not just about the stability. Nigerians want their Naira strong, and if the only thing that you can do to make Nigerians feel the impact of these things is to actually improve the value of the Naira. Let the value of the Naira appreciate in value. Let's see maybe 900 Naira exchanging for the dollar instead of the 1,600, almost 1,700 that we're seeing now. So that way we see impact, a real impact that will go around. Not like when you distribute rice, only a handful of people get. We need something the same way you removed subsidy, you floated the Naira, that has impacted everybody. Those two have impacted everybody without any exception. But when you share rice, it's only a handful of people that have the rice. So in the same manner, if the Naira appreciates in value, I know it's a Herculean tax, it's not an easy thing to do, but where there is a will, there is a way. And I feel the central bank at least has shown some determination to get things done, but they still need to do some more, because the average Nigerian is still not seeing the impact of some of these things.
Right. Dr. Simon, I'll need you to answer this in 30 seconds. Number one, do you think this administration is on the right track in terms of its economic policies? And then number two, I would like you to tell us what you think the fair value of the Naira against the dollar should be.
I think this current government has made some mistakes. The floating of the Naira, the removal of subsidy, on paper, they may seem right. I think the way we went about it the wrong way. And that has visited untold hardships on Nigerians. So I think they need to find a way out quickly. And then the fair value of the Naira, according to some sources, even the Minister of Finance and the Coordinating Minister of the Economy made mention of 700. I think if we can get that 700, that would be really an excellent thing to happen to Nigerians.
Absolutely. My next question to you would have been, how soon can we get to that amount? But of course, that's a question for another day. Thank you so much, Dr. Samson Simon, Chief Economist, ARKK Economics and Data Limited, for sharing your thoughts with us today on Business Edge.
Thank you for having me.